Good morning, everyone. My name is Virginia Voigt, and my pronouns are she, her. And on behalf of the Channing Auction Planning Committee, I have been asked to make the following announcement. Breaking news, auction planners set deadline for donations. Auction Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, November 8, 9, and 10. We'll have a live in-person auction in the fellowship hall downstairs on Saturday. Doors open 5:30 and the event ends at 8:30. Your ultra-low admission fee will cover a dinner designed to give you the energy to spend, spend, spend. The silent auction on Octria and fixed price signups on Sign Up Genius begin Friday at 6 p.m. and end on Sunday at 6 p.m. The deadline to submit your auction donations is Sunday, October 20th. There are two ways to submit a donation. In a recent email, we shared a link to a Google form that you can fill out and submit. You can also send your submissions by email to channingauction@yahoo.com. Also, a final reminder to join Channing members and friends at Howard County Pride after church at Merriweather Park.
Let us enter into worship with the words of Gary Kowalski. We gather here to worship, to seek the truth, to grow in love, to join in service, to celebrate life's beauty and find healing for its pain, to honor our kinship with each other and with the earth, to create a more compassionate world, beginning with ourselves, to wonder at the mystery that gave us birth, to find courage in the journey's end, and to listen for the wisdom that guides us in the quietness of this moment. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join our voices and our opening hymn, Let There Be Light, number 142 in your gray hymnal.
Please remain standing as Amira Eldonary lights our chalice with these words by Lisa Garcia Sampson. In these wild, historic, and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the great turning, the movement for justice alive in this nation today. May we feel it in our bones and in the stillness of this hour. May we sense it calling our name.
I invite you to gather around as we hear a special tale called Can You Hear the Plants Speak? By Nicholas Hummingbird with Julia Watson. Illustrations by Madeline Bennett. Our people believe spirit lives in everything. Mountain, river, wind, tree. Come, take a walk with me. I spent long summer days with my great-grandparents, exploring every rock and plant, learning when the creeks ran dry and the flowers and the plants flowered. I chased squirrels, played with lizards, stared down the rattlesnakes. Wind sang through the bunch grasses, woodpecker tapped his heartbeats, leaves danced across the ground. We listened as our plant relatives spoke. Wild strawberries, we'll quench your thirst when the streams run dry. Buckwheat, birds eat my seeds, and so can you. White sage, my smoke will lift your prayers to heaven. We rested in Grandfather Oak's shade. These trees are our ancestors. They give us our food, our medicine, our connection to spirit, my great-grandparents explained. And we thank them for the song, a blessing, a few drops of water. I sprinkled cool water as my great-grandparents quietly hummed an ancient song. I felt their song inside me. But not everyone could hear the plants speak. Some people thought our land would be more useful, flattened in concrete. The land was silenced. I grew up, and the city grew too. When my great-grandparents passed, I lost their voices. Adrift, I was lost too. But wait, who is this? Monarch at rest on milkweed, emerging through a crack. Milkweed's scent whispered, "Don't give up." I remembered my great-grandparents' voices, singing in the shade of Grandfather Oak. "Thank you, brother," I whispered. I had to find a way to keep their voices alive, but the cities were so big, the natural places so few. What could one person do? I listened. A drop of rain splashed in the dry dust, where thirsty seeds waited. That one drop might germinate one seed. one drop, then many. The sharp sun of creosotes rose. I felt the seas drink. I knew what to do. Thank you, I whispered to the sky and the plants. From one I would grow many. I had so much to learn. Plants became my best teachers. Black walnuts gather our hard, round shells and chill us for the winter. Poppy, shake our seeds into baskets as winds scatter them. Juncus, divide our stems after fledglings leave their nest. Lupin, we carpet the hillsides. Our seed coats are broken by a tumble of rock. Alverde, my seeds pass through ravens' stomachs, soften me with acid. Manzanita, we bloom after wildfire, wake our seeds with a wisp of smoke. And then my son is born. I named him Tuvi, our word for the drop of rain that starts the seed. We draw strength from the wind and mountains, bobcats and hummingbird, bringing life to our home in the city. We grow plants for all our relatives. Each new seedling is a healing. Tiny neighbors check them out. Grow strong, little guy. You are the hope of so many. We plant empty places. This is how we give back. These oaks will shade our grandchildren, I explained, just as my great-grandparents had explained to me. Can you hear the plants speak? I asked Tuvi. Yes. What do they tell you? They say thank you. And the song grows. In him and me, maybe in you. Listen. Can you hear it? Thanks for listening. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, number 112 in your gray hymnal. Do you hear? that follows the spoken prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys or concerns you hold in your heart this morning. Spirit of love and life, source of all that is, we pray that you hold us today in wonder, awe, and beauty, and in pain, hardship, and lament, as we journey together with our Indigenous siblings of this hallowed land. May we learn to listen to the sacred and the holy, to the ancestors and the elders, that which is held in the whispers of the wind, the meditation of the sea. May we join together in moments of laments and wonderment, and may we pause in this moment to settle into silence, which offers us so much, where we hear that which does not make a sound, the whisper of a fallen tree or the still small voice within. As we bless that which we receive through the art of listening, may we bless our Indigenous siblings of this earth, this land, of this country, who teach us all. Revered ones passing sacred wisdom and stories and knowledge to generations. So may we gather, honoring the silent, whispered wisdom of the land. The breath of the wind, the murmuring of stones or the water or the fall of leaves. Draw us today towards reconciliation, restore us in harmony, together with our siblings of this sacred and hallowed world, called towards brokenness, called towards beauty, called towards a greater connection and a greater love. May it be so, and amen. a candle for the joys and concerns of those beloveds joining us virtually. And I light a candle for all else that remains in our hearts and our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help, as am I. Please reach out with any needs.
Our offering words this morning are by Paul Dalzell. The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is as much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith. For those of you watching the service today online, you may contribute to our virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by mailing a check to the church office. I invite the ushers forward to receive the offering. I now invite Jim to introduce this month's Sunday special collection.
Good morning. Dr. Charlie Clements, who at the time was the president of the UU Service Committee, relayed a story about some young Native American men on tribal lands in Washington state who came upon a group of workers, mostly middle-aged white folks, digging a ditch for foundation for a schoolhouse. The Native American men couldn't understand why this group of older white folks had not only volunteered to dig the foundation, but paid for the privilege. They were part of a program of the UU Service Committee called Just Journeys, where UUs would sign up, join, and pay to experience an immersive social justice activity. Eventually, the young men rolled up their sleeves and joined in. While service is the UU Service Committee's middle name, teaching the next generation of social justice leaders through hands-on experience is integral to the mission to advance human rights worldwide and to help us achieve our goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. In 2012, UUSC expanded its Just Journeys program of experiential learning into a joint effort with the UUA to establish the UU College of Social Justice. Experiential learning journeys are available for individuals and congregational groups to a variety of locations in the U.S. and abroad. Traveling with a group, particularly one's own congregation, is a powerful way to inspire new levels of commitment and engagement and learn and witness firsthand about the injustices from impacted individuals and communities, directly encountering their struggles and victories, sharing collective experiences and common aspirations for justice. Most recently, the UU College of Social Justice offered a multi-generational seminar at the UN entitled Reimagining Tomorrow, Global Solidarity Beyond Empire. When the UUA closed its UN office, its work transferred to the UU College of Social Justice, which, in honoring the traditions of past UU-UN intergenerational spring seminars in New York, will center on justice education. Your generous support to help educate the next generation of UU social justice leaders in our congregations by offering experiential learning opportunities through the UU College of Social Justice is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
If you're donating by check, please make it out to Channing Memorial Church with special collection in the memo. For all that you give and all that you do for our church and its wider concerns, we give thanks. Listen to the wind, it talks. Listen to the silence, it speaks. I try to pause and take it all in. For this to work, I need to get quiet and sit still for quite a while. This challenges my little boy urge to wiggle, but it's worth it. I am fully attentive when I'm ready to receive, listening to all of the sounds, as well as the silences between sounds. Silences and sounds are equally powerful. Eventually, I feel the place vibrate with life, happy to have its story shared and listened to. The more deeply I listen, the better the story is told. Please rise as you are able and join us in hymn 10. 10:53. How could anyone?
I wonder if you have ever experienced the awe of ancient petroglyphs, unique markers carved into stone and rock by long ago indigenous peoples. If not, I invite you to imagine. Symbols of mountains, horses, people, birds, rain, a plethora of images serving as tribal, religious, or travel markers. Pause. Appreciate the ingenuity of the symbols, the wonder of the art of people long past, still crafted by indigenous peoples today. But I invite you to listen, centered in silence. Listen to the art, the air filled with soft yet persistent murmurings of faith and companionship and culture and story. Now remember or imagine kivas, underground circular spaces created for religious ceremonies. Within, immersed in sacred and holy space, one can hear the whispers of ancient practices of faith and ritual and sacred words. Pause, ingest, and bring beauty and awe with you in your heart and soul and being, receptive to the wonders before you. This is not limited to indigenous mastery, but soul-touching arts and places of worship held sacred in every society. Be attentive to the art, to the space, to the ancient stories, for, as an indigenous proverb provides us, listen to the wind, it talks. Listen to the silence, it speaks. I offer, listen to the art, listen to the space. And may I note there are many ways to listen. Some listen with sight, some with touch. On this day, when we honor Indigenous Peoples Day, we learn this ancient, sacred, embedded teachings and lessons of deep listening available to enrich the lives of all. We learn how this sacred arts can heal an aching people, an aching culture, an aching way of life as a predominant culture erases those who seem disposable. I start off with a personal reflection of an indigenous person, a man contemplating on what to him it means to be an indigenous person. Thomas Dottie notes, it begins with a walk. I saunter along the creek, he writes, listening to the end of summer trickling of water. I listen to the drum beats of a woodpecker far off in the woods. Squirrels rattle through dry leaves looking for autumn food. This reflection marks what it is inherent to a way of life of indigenous peoples, truly Listening is sacred. It is wonder. It is relationship and connection with the natural world, personifying in a way the rustle of the leaves to send a message to the heart of one who listens. So, I invite us to listen to the water or the trees or the squirrels, for this is where true wisdom and true faith lies. This is where our relationship with the earth is readily available. In this current day of society, as noted in our story for all ages, we, the predominant culture, are covering up the sounds with concretes, with cities and trains and highways. Whispers fade into the background. And yet, before we truly hear the rain, before we truly listen to the kiva, before we engage with the words of the elders or the ever-present wisdom tales, one must learn to listen to silence. Listen to the wind. It talks. Listen to the silence. It speaks. A time to truly pause in stillness and quiet, listening to that which cannot be heard, the wind, the rock, the still small voice within. Through intentional reflective silence, we create a sacred space within our very beings, ready to be receptive to the stories hovering all around us. It's about reception to the world around us. Just as profound as the wisdom of the elders is a moment of nothing but quiet contemplation and emptiness. For it is story we are ready to hear. It is story we work to be receptive to. Narratives found in the wind and the land and whatever space one finds oneself in. I offer the wisdom shared by Thomas Dottie, the same reflective Indigenous man mentioned above, considering the importance of sitting with silence. Eventually, I feel the place vibrate with life, happy to have its story shared and listened to. The more deeply I listen, the better the story is told. Silence cultivates within us space for deep listening. Once we have mastered silence, the world beckons. We see and hear narratives in space and place. We see and hear tales that linger from times far past. We listen to the history of the earth upon which we live. Storyteller Thomas Dottie elaborates. In cultivating his role as storyteller, he listened to the tales and the wisdom of the elders, a revered group in Indigenous cultures. He listened to the wisdom and the tale of the elders, and he connected that spoken world with physical place. He visited those places from which the narratives were told, from where the stories originated. And listening to the landscape, he heard the whisperings of all the Indigenous peoples who had survived before. The tree people, salmon people, bird people, human people, and the oldest ones around, the rock people, just as the elders had done. The wisdom of the rock people and the tree people became his wisdom, became his stories, which he shared through his own art of storytelling, wisdom he only received with quiet reception of the land around him, paired with wise insights of the elders. What was the plight of the salmon people? How did the human people find meaning? This was his query. These are the narratives he heard. Stories linger. Dottie reflects, without words, a story survives as a ghostly presence in the place where it lived, held in waterfalls, in the wind, ready to be heard. As people cross the creek, he writes, they carry their stories with them. Where they settle for a spell, their stories find a home. Dottie writes that you can feel those places where tales linger, where their ghostly remnants remain. I imagine a constant state of reception to all that may remain around us, tales of faith, of horror, of perseverance, of love, of survival, of joy, ready to be shared and heard by any receptive ear. Wisdom, insights, perspectives left indiscriminately by those who have come before. That reciprocity cultivated when we listen with silence allows us to hear them. Through a constant openness, we can receive those ghostly remains, which can in turn shape our lives. The earth holds its history. In any one mountain crossing, generations of people have traversed the landscape, selling goods, escaping hardship, looking for a new life held in the crumbling rocks and the towering boulders. I think of the history of any one piece of land, the very earth below my chair and my floor and my basement as I wrote this sermon. Beauty, yes. Roaming animals, changing landscape, children born and raised. And there is undeniable hardship. Indigenous people displaced, slaves brought from Africa, desecration of the land. And all of these are stories to be told, are narratives to be heard. Narratives society tries to hide, but of which we can always return to. For our history is who we are, and it is held in the swaying grasses, the gentle summer breeze, the lush green forests. May we receive these whispers with an open, attuned mind. Deep listening becomes a way of life much greater and more significant than periodic curiosity of the world around us. The art of listening is not simply a skill. It is a capability ingrained in a way of life. Listening to the earth beneath the flowers, to the insights of revered elders, receptive to stories and wisdom held in people, rocks, and wind alike. Silence is sacred just as is spoken wisdom. Receptivity to the surrounding world and all the cherished mortals within it open the mind and the body to insights and wisdom otherwise dismissed and overlooked. It is a practice, a way of engaging with the expansive and wondrous world all around us. And it is steeped in beauty and hardship and wonder and awe. Listen to the land below us. Land where indigenous peoples grew crops, fished, hunted, and traded. Inhabited by peoples for more than 10,000 years, following the bison and the mammoth and the caribou of which they ate. Land was never considered property. This curious and novel notion was introduced with the settlers. Land encompassed culture, relationship, spirituality, faith. Land and the peoples held within was usurped by Europeans, disrupting the earth, the ancestors, the spirits, desecrating culture, perpetuating centuries of abuse. May we pause in silence, ready to be receptive to this hard truth. May we listen to the land and the history held deep within it. May we hold space for story. For story is what makes the abstract a reality. I stood in a vast circle of interfaith clergy responding to the Indigenous cry for justice following the crisis of the Dakota Access Pipeline, a pipeline to be built through Indigenous land that could destroy drinking water, threaten burial grounds, demolish culturally significant historical sites, their livelihoods and safety dismissed and overlooked. And so, we joined as faith leaders, and we listened. We listened to the Indigenous peoples read and ultimately burn the words of the Doctrine of Discovery, a legal document that forced them off their land. We listened to the drums and the vocals and the stomping of feet of music passed down through generations, historically used as a celebration or a lament that has persisted for centuries, if not more, lifting up in this moment, an historical moment of pain and sorrow. We listen to the poetry, to speeches, to song of faith and pride and perseverance and beauty that they were not about to let go of. We bowed our heads in prayer, offered by the elders, prayers for the future. through spoken word and song. Through drum beats and prayer, we heard the plights of this marginalized group. Sound was intentionally employed to inspire sorrow and action. And through intentional moments of silence, the word and message sunk into our very hearts and beings. I pray and I hope that our presence offered them what they needed. Knowledge that they were loved, respected, that they were important and revered as we join in solidarity and in faith. And through our own words and deeds and actions, and through those of the Indigenous peoples, this message was heard by those in power. The stomps and cries and drum beats live in my heart to this day. Several years ago, I attended General Assembly virtually. In the midst of worship services, of classes and workshops, of votes and business meetings, we heard of the 215 unmarked graves of Indigenous children found at a residential school in Canada. This is a story that needs to be heard. This is a story that needs to penetrate hearts and souls and minds and spirits and call for an uproar in response to a tragic atrocity. So may we hear the narrative of Indigenous children forcibly taken from their families to assimilate them into white culture at residential schools. Children were stolen, and many died, and in death treated with such disdain and insignificance that their graves were not marked, death expendable and as such not acknowledged. These are the stories we need to hold in our hearts. These are the tales the earth carries and always will carry. These are the accounts of the ancestors carried in downpours of rain and grieving wind. These are the narratives of those children who will never become elders. So may their voices live on in the survivors. What happened on the earth below us? Atrocities. So may we listen and listen and listen, so these voices will not be forgotten. May we love, may we learn, may we care, may we engage, may we act, may we help heal. And so, on this day, may we close our eyes and envision the petroglyphs, jagged yet beautiful symbols of rain and birds and mountains, knowing this is a sacred story we must listen to in the silent artwork. Knowing that in that moment of reverence, we know ancient celebrations and heartbreak and joys and sorrow and celebration passed down through generations of art steeped in silence. As we pause, listening to a world that covers natural whispers with concrete, we connect with the land below the asphalt, below the cities, below the highways, and know the great history of what survived before us. Places speak, stories linger, and the earth has a narrative to share. And when this hidden and ancient and sorrow-filled narrative finds its way through the cracks, and we, through the silence, hear the suffering, may we be the ones to act and love and care. For if listening is to be sacred, it must capture moments and murmurings of joy and faith and beauty and love. It must imbue us with wisdom and insights and inspire us to be receptive to the world. If listening is to be faithful, it must capture moments of pain whispered by the very earth, calling us to bring our full selves to usher more love and healing and peace to this broken, beautiful world. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or in spirit and join our voices in hymn number 398, To See the World. May we open our hearts to the breath of the world, listening to the art and story and land of which we are immersed. May we pause in reception to the holy things, to the sacred things. For the trees, the wind, the rocks, they speak to us. They speak to us the murmurs of silence through whispers of awe. Together we revere the music, the prayers of a people permeated with oppression, so that on this hallowed day we can listen, we can love, we can begin to heal that which is so very broken. Go in peace and amen.